Jesus always practices what he preaches, thankfully. In this gospel incident, Jesus goes from saying, "As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world," to spitting on the ground and making and spreading mud on the eyes of a man who later says to the Pharisees, "Now I see. Let there be light." Genesis chapter 1. Words of revelation and a gesture of lavish mercy, a gift of healing. And this beautiful man, in wonder and gratitude, celebrates, standing in stark contrast with the Pharisees, who think they have a corner on the market of religious practice, and who in their cynicism revile this man. This is yet another encounter on our Lenten journey. Lent is always about encounter. Love is always personal. And underlying this amazing encounter is the difficult question of the cause of suffering. Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Why the blindness? Why? Why suffering? Why what is happening in our society and world? The disciples want to know direct cause and effect. This they want in fairly good company, ours, who sometimes think we have the answer. What goes around comes around. You reap what you sow. Good karma, bad karma. Depends on what you and your loved ones, your family have done. How many times have I heard this? I have the blessing of regular visits to an elderly French woman, 94, bedridden Madame Humphrey, who often asks, "What have I done to deserve this?" Jesus responds to such cause and effect thinking, wrong. Please, wrong. There is no direct, necessary cause and effect. Bad things are bad things, but are not necessarily the direct effect of personal bad choices and behavior. Nor are bad things orchestrated by God because he is bored or peeved. We do, of course, believe that a disharmony, a brokenness entered our world way back when the original covenant with God was broken. Thank you, Adam and Eve. But that is ultimate, not direct cause. No necessary direct cause and effect, and no easy answers, alas. Bad things, like the coronavirus, are painful, frightening things that God mysteriously allows, obviously, through which God wishes to reach us in new ways. Notice how Jesus does not offer an explanation. Jesus responds by his actions, inviting us to believe that God makes use of bad things for a greater good. We must dare to believe this, to trust in this. Now, the greater good is not necessarily things fixed. You may have noticed this in your own life. God does not magically fix everything. In fact, we may sometimes be wondering what exactly he does fix. Yet we believe that God always responds to our prayer. It is so that God's works might be revealed, like this man, in us. In human brokenness, in the midst of our frightening situation, divine light and divine love can be revealed. This encounter with the blind man shows us Jesus, God in vulnerable flesh, and it shows us where Jesus, as light of the world, leads us. There is a progression in this encounter. His healing is just the beginning of a journey and a fitting metaphor for what later occurs. Notice how, at first, Jesus was a nobody, complete stranger for this fellow. Jesus alone entirely takes the initiative. He asks nothing, no negotiation, no test of readiness. Jesus approaches him, boldly smears his eyes with mud, and sends him to the pool of Siloam. At the pool, suggestive of baptism, the blind man is healed and returns seeing. His healing is a source of controversy. Jesus has supposedly broken the Sabbath rules. The neighbors cynical, the Pharisees accusatory. The Pharisees, the latter, accuse the man and Jesus of being sinners. Instead of rejoicing with this man in his healing, they interrogate and harass him. Then when Jesus learns that the fellow has been expelled from the synagogue for his healing, he finds him and he bestows the gift of faith, which grants spiritual sight, the type of sight to which Jesus ultimately intends and wishes to lead us. The formerly blind man comes to see Jesus. Jesus sees our blindness, and without negotiating or waiting until we feel ready, which may take a very long time, he touches us. He smears smoothing mud on our eyes and ultimately leads us to an interior discovery of who he is. We all have the gift of faith, which enables our minds to touch the mystery of God without seeing a thing, which grants us a mysterious conviction. Lord, I believe. And this conviction from the outside may seem like silly subjectivity, but faith is an incredible gift, which in challenging times can be comforting and uncomfortable for we who all want to see with our own two eyes. Do not be surprised, therefore, that there be times of wondering, of doubt. You have not lost your faith. You are simply experiencing the challenge intrinsic to faith, that of not seeing. Let us continue our faith journey with all the worry that may inhabit us. And as St. Paul tells us in the second reading for this Sunday, the fourth Sunday of Lent, live as children of light. Jesus, our light, the light of the world, is present. If so, there is quiet but real joy for us in the midst of all this. All we must do is want to believe. To want to believe is already to believe, is already to be in relationship with Jesus. Wait a minute. It can't be that simple. Oh, yes, it can. Amen.